Hi, everybody. Steve Green from Make the Grade. Listen, I wanted to jump on live quickly because the reason is, at least in my area, a lot of schools are closing down, shutting down because of this virus situation, this coronavirus situation. And it's serious stuff. And I completely get why they're doing it. But the concerns of a lot of parents is the virtual education going to be effective? Is this good? Is it worth it? So I just wanted to address it because I'm getting a lot of the same questions from people, and they're really legit. I actually took some notes. I rarely use a script when I do this, but I just want to cover a few things. So first of all, in my tutoring company, I've used virtual classroom for almost 12 years. The technology today is really good. When I started, it wasn't. You were lucky if you could make it through a half hour without the internet breaking down or just buffering. I haven't used that word in a while because the connection is so strong now. But technologically, the technology is there. There's in the classroom I use when I work online with a student, we have a very good audio feed. We have a very good video feed. There's an ability to screen share. I often use a whiteboard, and I can write on the whiteboard. We can share files. We can share documents. It's obviously not exactly the same as being across the table from somebody, but it's really pretty close. And in some ways, it's better because you can record the whole thing. So there's a reviewing capability later, which you wouldn't get live. Number one, and number two is just the convenience. But just from the perspective of effectiveness, I think it can be. So I just want to run through kind of some best practices, like any sort of studying. Okay, if you're involved in a virtual learning situation, especially if it's a classroom setting, where you're involved with a teacher and 20 other students, it's important to have a working environment, just like you're doing homework, just like you're prepping for a test. Try to have a situation where it's quiet. You don't want a lot of distractions. And this is really kind of common sense. Obviously you want a good internet connection. You want good Wi-Fi. Hopefully you have that. The second thing would be just to come ready. Often in virtual education, there's an expectation that maybe the teacher has, prior to the class, sent out files or sent out a document or has something that you might need to review prior to the lesson, or maybe something everybody's going to work on collectively during the lesson. And that's also important. So make sure you have that. It's not the easiest thing to sit there for 3 or 4 hours, essentially a video conference, but given the alternatives and given the realities, it can be really, really effective. So from a parent's perspective, I get this is the most common question I'd ask today: how I know this is going to work? How do I know my kids are going to learn anything? And I can't answer that with certainty, except to say that the mechanism should be fine. The delivery is really pretty good, as long as the situation is strong on both ends and the students are paying attention. A second question I got from a few parents, well, a few like 5, is my kid just can't learn that way. They need that. They need to be engaged. They need to be in a situation where they're paying attention. That's a trickier one because that is one of the counter arguments with virtual learning. But I think my solution would just be to treat it like you're in a classroom. You really don't have a choice that way. But I think the key is to get used to it too. This is going to take some adaptation from a lot of people, the educators, the students, and we're just all doing the best that we can. In my particular case, I tutor a lot of math, I tutor a lot of science, and of course test prep, SATs, and all that. And I have never had an issue where I was prevented from instructing what I needed to instruct because of the technology. It was really just a matter of making sure that myself and the student, or in many cases students, it was a class setting, all had the same materials, all had access to the same information in real time. So I think my message here is simple. I think given what's going on around us, and especially in my area around Philadelphia, where we've been a little harder hit with cases of this virus, and schools are closing, and the county is closing, and hospitals are already a little bit inundated. I think we just need to be smart and kind of be a voice of reason a little bit in this situation. So if anybody has questions, I mean, below me on the screen, I've got my website and my email. If you're interested in maybe reaching out, and whether or not you're a particular client of mine or not, if you just want some information, I can try to be a resource to parents and students, and for that matter, schools or universities and educational institutions who maybe don't have quite as much experience in the virtual teaching world. Not that they're not excellent educators, but sometimes the technology has its kind of nuances and things like that. So that's really what I wanted to kind of come on and say, because it's been an interesting day. And what's happened basically is I've been getting the same questions over and over and over. And even while I was on this, I got 2 text messages and a phone call kind of wrapping around. So people are clearly concerned. I think people don't exactly know what to think. But to stay on topic, the virtual education, the virtual schooling can definitely work. The technology is solid. I've used it for over 10 years in my private tutoring, as I mentioned before. So if I can be helpful to anybody as a resource, or just answer questions, or perhaps, if you need one-on-one information or one-on-one tutoring, I can help you with that as well. So if you have a comment and you want to put it into the chat, let's see here. Hi. Let me just see if I can answer this really quickly. My school, or my child's school, has issued Chromebooks. Are they capable of handling this situation? I'm going to say yes, without knowing exactly what technology you have. On the scale of powerness, if that's even a word, of computers, I don't think Chromebooks are up there at the top, but they're certainly capable of handling fundamental tasks. Video, I know, can be done on a Chromebook. So second question I got is, does it matter what computer you use? Unless there's some proprietary gateway like Blackboard or Moodle or Schoology or something that your particular school uses, I am not aware of a particular limitation that any particular hardware would have. You may need some utilities or something on your computer. That's really more of an IT concern. Third question is, can you hand in work virtually? Yes, absolutely yes. Many students already forget the virtual, are handing work in through submission websites, or emailing directly to teachers and instructors, or submitting it through portals. So, this is clearly going to be different, but in some ways, some of the things are already being done. So I don't think it's going to be as big an adjustment for some students as you may think. It's going to be a bigger adjustment for some than others, no question. We got one more comment. How long can they sustain this? I mean, theoretically, people teach classes online. I mean, I've done it for semesters, for whole years. So this could be a really viable long-term solution. So we'll see. So everybody, just if you have questions, reach out. Appreciate everybody listening. And Dr. Stephen Green, Make the Grade, signing off. Stay safe.